All right, so we will get rolling. So today we are going to do a GNANA lab, last day of January, this new wonderful year of 2022. So we have an agenda today, and so we're going to have 5 different topic points. The first will be GNANA mechanics, which I will cover. Then the second will be GNANA's use in initial ape offerings, which we will have Jules speaking about. Guru will come on to speak about GNANA's role in the ApeSwap DAO. And then I will speak a bit about GNANA strategies and how to manage. And then finally, we'll do a brief Q&A. If anyone has questions, please hold them until the end. Write them down, keep them in your memory, whatever serves best. As previously mentioned, we'll have Ape Guru, who is the daddy developer of ApeSwap, smart contract legend. Jules, BizDev King, he's responsible for so much of the deals and partnerships and groups that ApeSwap interacts with. Then finally myself, as president and instructor of ApeLabs. And okay, so introducing the golden banana. We actually had a governance vote on the correct pronunciation of this abbreviation. For some odd reason, there were people who were calling it GNANA. So we had to settle that by a governance vote, and it's GNANA. And so that's our abbreviation for our golden banana. And so GNANA is the abbreviation for our golden banana token. Golden banana serves a vital role in ApeSwap's DeFi ecosystem. And so ApeSwap as a DEX has so many different components, so many different things going on between liquidity and staking and pools and farms and NFAs and NFBs and IAOs. And golden banana is just at the heart of it all. And it plays such a vital role specifically through the deflationary pressure it puts on the banana token. So the banana token itself is inflationary. 10 banana are produced to the market every block. And so that means that every single block, more and more banana come into existence. And so we have a variety of ways to control that inflation, manual burns, IAOs, and so forth. And entrance to GNANA and use of GNANA within IAOs are huge, huge, huge deflationary pressures. And so that supports the banana token. GNANA also plays in, Jules could speak to this at some point, but GNANA plays a huge role in partnerships and business development. I think that a lot of people aren't aware of how these pools originate and how they come into existence. And it's usually, on the backs of just, potentially over hundreds of hours of negotiations and outreach and working deals. And so if you want to provide a pool on ApeSwap, you want to provide it to the people who will be the most loyal apes and who have a propensity to go into ecosystems for long periods of time. And so GNANA is very, very attractive in the use of partnerships and business development. It is the best yield-bearing asset for apes, singularly, and that is through its passive farming and pools. And so when we talk about passive farming, that is, if it's just sitting in your wallet, it grows because we'll go into this a bit later. Every transaction has a reflection fee, and so that's redistributed. And so you don't even have to stake it. You can just let it sit in the wallet and let it grow. And then, of course, the GNANA pools themselves offer some of the coolest, hottest tokens, some of the best APRs, and they generally run for a pretty long period of time. GNANA is used in initial ape offerings, which will have obviously its own section. And then obviously the voting token for the DAO, which Guru will be speaking about and going into what a DAO is and what the ideas behind a DAO are. Finally, you can redeem a GNANA 1-to-1 for a banana at any point in time. And so these are all the different roles that GNANA plays within our ecosystem, and it's very, very critical and very, very vital to it all. So when we look specifically at the mechanics of GNANA, well, it's burned on entrance. And so I talked about the deflationary pressure for the banana token, and this is how it arises because 30% of all banana converted to GNANA are burned. I mean, it's 28% burn and 2% redistributed, but 30% of that entrance gets taken away. What that amounts to is over 5 million banana tokens have been burned through this conversion alone. That's huge. That's huge because that value is nearly 5% of the banana circulating supply. And so, we're fortunate, right? We're very fortunate and very lucky to have ApeTastic over there who conducts all the manual burns and makes sure that, the inflation of bananas managed properly. But then the market can also have an effect and an impact itself. And so if you are in the ApeSwap ecosystem and you're holding banana and you're concerned about inflation, GNANA is one of the best answers to inflation that doesn't come from ApeSwap, or it doesn't come from rigging up a new version where a certain amount is allocated to a burn address. Like, it doesn't have to be like gimmicky or gamed. It can just be provided through the market. And then I talked about the reflection. And so every movement of GNANA incurs a 2% tax. And so this is where this passive farming concept originates. Because if you send out GNANA, whether it's to an IAO contract, to a pool, to a different wallet, that 2% is taxed from your send and then redistributed proportionately to all GNANA holders. And so while this value on each transaction can be incredibly, incredibly small, during high periods of GNANA activity, it's quite impressive and it's quite dramatic. So when we talk about reflection tokens, and BitBoy famously lumped GNANA in with like SafeMoon, which was incorrect, right? They're not all cut the same. They're not all different. GNANA, the 2% fee isn't sent to a liquidity pool, right? It's not sent to a treasury for us to hold and redistribute. It's literally sent to the holders. But if you're in a pool, you do not receive that GNANA redistribution. And so when we look at the strategies later on and the ways that we can approach managing GNANA, this is something to consider, right? If you sit inside a pool over a few IAOs, then that's a large amount of reflections that you had missed out on. And so you'll need to, determine whether you would rather have GNANA as a yield-bearing asset, accruing more GNANA in wallet, or if you prefer to accrue it as the pool token. All right, so that is my section on the GNANA mechanics. I will pass it over to Julian to talk a bit about IAOs.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Chip. Yeah, so let's talk about IAOs and specifically how GNANA interacts with IAOs. And yeah, I'm super excited to dig into this. Obviously, I think we've had 10 IAOs up to this point, and we're about to hit number 11 here in the next couple of days. So super excited to get you guys, I guess, a little bit more familiar with how it all works, and obviously how the GNANA side works. So obviously, yeah, new projects launch their tokens on ApeSwap through initial Ape offerings. We've got two separate ways that users can participate. Obviously, we've got the BNB side where we collect just BNB, no special needs or requirements to get involved on that end. And then we've got the GNANA side of things where obviously you need to go through the steps mentioned by Chip, burn some of that banana in order to get involved in the GNANA side of things, and then obviously deal with some of the reflect fees and make that decision that you were alluding to of whether or not you stay in the pool side of things, whether or not you want to just sit back and passively collect the reflect fees, or if you want to get into the GNANA offering. For the projects, from a project perspective, we actually give 100% of the BNB side of the offerings to the projects that are raising funds. And then 100% of the GNANA offering actually gets burnt, which really helps with overall banana tokenomics and really helps us, again, just generate additional burn and realize that additional burn. One of the really great benefits of the GNANA allocations for IAOs, like as it's pointed out here, are that typically we get a much lower oversubscription rate on those, meaning that apes who ape into the GNANA side of things typically receive a significantly higher allocation than apes who use BNB. I think typically it's about a 10x difference in allocation size. So if you are interested in IAOs, definitely would recommend aping in on the GNANA side of things. And obviously, we developed GNANA with IAOs in mind. We realized that a lot of people were getting into our typical IAOs back in the day with a significant amount of funds, and we're essentially, getting the highest allocations based on that, and then leaving users who only had small allocations behind, and barely getting anything. So really was great to develop this mechanism, not only as a burning mechanism on ApeSwap for Banana, but also as a chance to give the smaller holders a better opportunity at getting into these allocations. And obviously, we still want whales to be involved in the ecosystem. But if you are a whale and you want to get involved on the GNANA side of things, you're going to have to burn 30% of your banana. So was a really great method there for us. And for any apes who aren't familiar with the oversubscription model, I can give you guys just a quick rundown on that. So essentially, let's say, as the example is laid out here, for the 99 Stars IAO, let's say you wanted to raise $250,000. We actually allow people to input as much money as they want. There's no limits on that actual raise, so people can put in as much as they want. And then depending on the oversubscription rate, people will get a fraction, again, based on that oversubscription rate, of what they actually put in. And then the rest of their funds will be returned. So obviously on the BNB side of things, I think in this case, it's 34,000% oversubscribed, which is insane, and really goes to show why we created GNANA and the GNANA side of things. And then in that case, you would get a small, I think 350, a 350th of what you put in, versus on the GNANA side of things, as you can tell here, I think you would get I think either 200 or sorry 22 a 22nd of what you put in, because it's 2,200% oversubscribed. Obviously, it's a little bit of a complicated mechanism if you're not too familiar with that, but I think we go a lot more in depth in our actual documentation, and I'm sure Chip has spoken about this before in the past. But yeah, I think we can move on to the next slide if you're ready, Chip. Awesome. So to this date, over 30,696,829 GNANA have been raised through IAO. So it's really been one of the best mechanisms we've had up to this point for getting people in GNANA and getting people to burn additional banana. Obviously, the pools go a very long way and offer people a great place to park that GNANA in between IAOs and in general as well, due to the high APRs. But of course, people are very interested in the IAOs that we have, especially since we've been working with such high quality partners as of late. So it's really been a fantastic mechanism for generating additional GNANA burn or banana burn as well, and getting people deeper into the ApeSwap ecosystem as a whole. So it's been really great. From a reflect perspective, 614,000 GNANA has been reflected to holders, which is amazing to see. Obviously really goes to show how that passive strategy can really be effective for a lot of people, especially during the IAOs, as Chip mentioned as well. That's when you'll see probably the most movement, or actually when large pools tend to end, there's a lot of movement there as well. But definitely the IAO side of things is when you see a lot of movement, and it really gamifies things. It's super interesting to give people that option of, well, do you want to sit on your GNANA and wait for all that reflect? Do you want to participate in the IAO? Or even, again, do you want to get involved in those pools, which a lot of the pools APRs tend to skyrocket during IAO time as people remove GNANA from the pools in order to get involved in the IAOs. So it's been really cool to see. It seems like we've burnt over $2.5 million of GNANA through the IAO raises, which is absolutely fantastic to see. Obviously, going for more IAOs and higher IAO allocations for both the BNB and GNANA side of things really helps us get that number as high as possible. And it's awesome to see that number be as high as it is. I mean, we generate a decent amount of burn through banana, but I think GNANA has been one of the most effective methods for doing so up to this point. So love to see that. And then, as I stated a little bit before as well, GNANA IAO allocations average 8,500% lower subscription rate than BNB. And that's, again, amazing to see those hardcore apes, dedicated GNANA holders really being rewarded for being so deep in our ecosystem and for believing in ApeSwap. And again, most of those holders, I think, are long-term, end up becoming long-term holders of GNANA. And again, that's why those pools are so, so beneficial and in giving a place for that GNANA to be parked afterwards. So love to see that. Love to see such high numbers and such a good rate of difference there between the BNB and GNANA. I think we can move on to the next one, sir. Awesome. So why use GNANA and IAOs? So of course, all of the reasons that I just mentioned, obviously, are super, super great reasons to get in there. But of course, you don't have to. We've got the BNB side of things as well. But obviously, with the difference in oversubscription rates, golden banana holders tend to get the best allocations. You obviously tend to get that 4% back versus the IAO gains, which obviously tend to be pretty great in general. Now we're going to have the linear vesting, so I think things are going to go a lot better for future IAOs as well versus the 25% unlock that we've had every month up to this point. We've got a nice little example here written up, which I really like. Is this kind of like circular pattern it really exemplifies a good reason for why you should get into an IAO with GNANA. Obviously, you can make pretty good gains getting into these IAOs, and then if you roll that back into GNANA and start participating in the pools, it should be very, very profitable for you and allow you to hold a decent amount of the IAO tokens as well. Since, obviously with the vesting period on those tokens, a lot of people tend to hold a lot of the tokens and kind of sell a little bit along the way in order to make back their initial capital. But, really, again, I would really consider holding as one of the best methods for generating profits through the IAOs, especially with the quality of the partners that we've been working with lately. I think our last launch was the first time we worked very closely with Animoca Brands, which is the largest blockchain gaming company in the world at the moment, valued at over $5.5 billion. And we're currently one of their main launchpad partners. So last IAO, 99 stars, which is one of their main ecosystem or one of their new ecosystem additions. They launched on Animoca's launchpad and then launched with ApeSwap and a couple of other launchpads, which they did not have great experiences with. And now they are launching another project, which we are working super closely with and are very, very excited to be IAOing. And they are launching on Animoca's launchpad and then exclusively launching on ApeSwap because they have really enjoyed working with us. They love our community. And so far, it seems like we are going to be their main partner for the next couple of launches. So we're super, super excited to be in that position and very, very excited to be bringing the best quality IAOs to the table that we possibly can. And, from my perspective, again, I really see these projects as being long-term oriented. Animoca is building this crazy, crazy ecosystem that I think really will pay dividends in the long run here, especially considering that most of the teams for these projects are vesting their own team tokens for periods of over 10 years sometimes. So definitely one to hold and keep an eye on for sure.
Well, then I believe that welcomes
awesome.
Drew.
So, perfect.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that, Julian.
Of course.
In terms of okay, so you have this large company like Animoca, and they have expectations on how things should be executed, and post launch, like what happened. It's not you just launch and leave it. And so I think that the way that they gravitate towards us, it really speaks to kind of how we approach things at ApeSwap. And they just have a lot of confidence that we'll be able to execute these launches for them in a professional fashion. It'll work, and there will be support after the fact. And so, it's really, really cool to hear those things, and I think it'll resonate.
Amazing. Love to hear that. Yeah, and again, we work really hard to bring the best IOs we can. So definitely excited to have everybody realize that and see the value that we're bringing, and especially excited for Animoca to see that as well. So But
Awesome.
yeah, excited to have participated. And again, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share some of these some more information on IAOs and GNANA as a whole.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Guru, you are up, sir. Would you like to speak to us about DAOs and the ApeSwap DAO?
Of course, I would love to.
Amazing.
But first, if you allow it, I would love to make this part a little bit didactic because I think that DAOs are super open-ended and there are many definitions of DAO within the community, within the crypto ecosystems. So I would like to take a few volunteers to speak up and tell me what they think a DAO is.
Yeah, love it. It may be the ApeLabs students who have been who've been taught this concept can withhold comments.
Yeah, anyone feel free maybe to say, raise your hand in the general chat and tell me what's your vision of a DAO.
You can also take it off mute and chime in here if you don't want to type.
Don't be shy, apes. No wrong answers.
Hey guys, how are you? I'm Greg. It's a pleasure
Hey,
to
Greg.
meet you all. I will try to make a definition. I think it's a decentralized autonomous organization, maybe. No,
Wow, very precise.
no, well, I think it's like the future of organizations because we are so accustomed to everything being so centralized, and this in this type of organization they are trying to bring power to the people, but real power to make real decisions. And I think it's a new way of see business, not being so waiting for like a genius to give us like the future and all the solutions, but you take part in the organizations, you also take the decisions, and if you want something to happen, you have the possibility. And I think that is a DAO, the AO.
Nice. Lovely, lovely definition.
Thanks a lot, man. Sorry, Chip,
Thank you.
if I don't pass.
Oh, Greg, that was perfect. That was so
Oh,
well said.
wait, yeah,
Yeah,
come on,
no, that
Greg.
was
Yeah,
perfect.
make him pass, Chip. Make him pass.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was perfect, Greg. I mean, the way, yeah, like, we disrupt so much by nature of like crypto and DeFi. But then when you talk about DAO as just a concept and how it can be applied, yeah, it's entirely revolutionary. And, I have a lot of professional training in organizational theory, and they have a concept called like a matrix, and so that type of an organizational construct is similar to a DAO, but it's usually still executed within a centralized top-down environment. And so when we see these DAOs happening on chain, and we realize the full potential of what it can unlock, not just in cryptocurrency and governance, but applications in the real world for business, like it's really, really powerful concept.
Couldn't agree more. Anyone else wanting to share their vision of DAOs or definition?
Josh shared one in chat. Governance system by the token holders, power to the people for the people.
Okay, I guess it's my turn then. I'll take the silence as no one else wanting to share. But yeah, my idea of a DAO and my vision, it's, I mean, clearly very close to what is being described in the picture, and I completely agree with what Greg says. I think it's the future of organizations, especially digital organizations that rely so much on the internet and in the technologies of communication. I think that in the recent years, we've seen how much remote work has increased, making this kind of structure even more sense and more actually attainable and representative of what could actually be an organization nowadays. And of course, as the word says, a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization, which I believe can have many interpretations. There's a lot of people who speak of DAOs in terms of how much smart contractified the structure is, how much of the voting is actually executed on chain, and so on. And I think that this is super valuable and also super tangible. But at the same time, I also see DAO as a mindset. DAO as a philosophy and as a way of doing things. Giving the community its voice, hearing what everyone wants to say, opening the doors for new collaborators. It's not only about executing on-chain transactions or executing on-chain decisions, but also opening the gates to onboard new people that want to collaborate on the protocol, opening the gates for new participants to become key stakeholders in the case they add value to the protocol and the organization. It's about growing as a collective and growing as a community. And working towards a path that is resilient to regulators, is resilient to governments, is resilient to changes in the economy or loss of any given country. And that's why, as this picture shows, very good picture picked by Chip, that the DAOs also characterize themselves for not having a legal entity. And this, in a way, it's what kind of helps the DAO be resilient to all the changes that are happening in the world when we see new laws arise or crypto regulations and all that stuff. DAOs, as they operate worldwide in a decentralized fashion, they are resilient to this kind of changes by nature. And it's also something that is potentially going to help all DAOs continue existing as within all this uncertainty and legal news that are happening in the world. Here at ApeSwap, we are constantly working towards the DAO path with our GNANA Governance system. We are currently working on a new, more enhanced contributor program. We are trying to make all of our big decisions run through the GNANA Governance. I think that something that also speaks a lot about the DAO mentality at ApeSwap is the fact that at least 80 or 90% of the ApeSwap core team came from people from the community. We're constantly looking to onboard new people into the core team, to grow in a decentralized fashion, to make our collaborators and our most voiced community members be part of our family and help us grow together as a decentralized autonomous organization. And I'm personally a firm believer on DAOs. Since I knew this concept for the first time, I knew I always wanted to build a DAO, and for me it would be a dream fulfilled to see ApeSwap become one of the first world-class renowned DAOs in the world. And I think that's my introduction for DAOs on this slide. Okay, so how the ApeSwap DAO works nowadays? Right now, we have the GNANA system that enables ApeSwap holders to drive direction and operation of the organization through voting. Any GNANA holder that has over 2,500 GNANA can create a proposal that will be evaluated by all the GNANA holders in the ecosystem. Any GNANA holder, no matter the amount, can vote on proposals. And of course, everyone has the visibility to verify that the proposals being voted on and are actually being executed. Right now, it's true that the proposals on ApeSwap are using the snapshot system, so they do require a manual execution. This is because not all of the proposals can actually be executed through smart contracts. For example, if it's a new feature, if it's a change in product direction, this needs to be manually executed by a technical team, as many of the things that might be being proposed are not necessarily already on chain. In addition, from the community proposals, there are also some special proposals that are marked by core, which are proposals created by the core team. Of course, the benefits of this is continue moving towards decentralization, create something that I already mentioned, create like legal resilience and regulatory resilience from the DAO to the regulators. It creates a new utility for Banana and GNANA by making GNANA the governance token, while also incentivizing further burn and commitment for those who wants to become a stakeholder, which is something that I'm super happy and bullish about personally. I appreciate the fact that anyone who really wants to be a stakeholder on ApeSwap and really wants their voice to be heard, they need to be willing to burn 30% of their value to become an active participant in governance as a sign of their commitment to ApeSwap and how much they actually want to partake in our ecosystem. And finally, it gives everyone in the ecosystem ownership of the project by allowing them to vote in any given decision. If you've never been into through a governance cycle before in ApeSwap, this is how our currently governance website looks like. It's based on snapshot, which means that at a certain block or date, it takes a snapshot of all GNANA holders, and that's the amount that the holder will be able to use to vote. There are two actions that can be taken on this website. One of those is the most regular action. It's just come into the website to vote. Here is where the snapshot takes place, and you will have your GNANA accounted up to certain block number. Whenever ApeSwap is running any active governance proposals, there will be communication in Telegram, there will be communication in Twitter. We usually open Reddit threads to further discuss the different options of the proposal, so everyone in the community can share their views, if they are in favor, if they are against, whatever they want to discuss related to a proposal is open to discussion on Reddit. And also a lot about the snapshot time, so everyone can have their GNANA ready to vote. And once the voting time comes, and if you have your mind set into what to vote, you can come here into vote.apeswap.finance and vote on your favorite options for the proposals. I always want to encourage everyone to vote because it's important to know what the community is feeling about the matters, what the community's direction is. And no GNANA amount is too small to vote. It's very important to get your voice heard and let everyone at ApeSwap and at the DAO know what your opinion is on these important matters. And as it's mentioned, there are pool stakers are currently not eligible to vote because you need to hold your GNANA in your wallet. On the other hand, if you want to create a proposal, you need a minimum of 2,500 GNANA. And right now, new proposals related to tokenomic changes and expanding to new changes that do not apply as these big changes are reserved to core proposals, though this doesn't mean that a user cannot propose these changes to the core team and talk to the core team to bring this into governance. It's just a matter of order and just avoiding kind of far-fetched sensical proposals into the governance system. We are open to any type of changes, though some very big changes are better off being previously discussed to the core team, so we can actually make sure that they will happen if the governance proposal goes through. But beyond this, anyone is more than welcome to send proposals. I personally can't wait to execute a community proposal that goes through the system. Sadly, up to this day, I think we've seen 17 or 18 proposals go through, and still no community proposal has gone through. But well, I'm counting on everyone on this call, on this class, to go and consider making a community proposal, and if it's good, you will have my vote.
That's quite the encouragement, Guru.
It needs to be good. But yeah, I encourage everyone. if you have a good proposal, you will have my vote.
All right. Well, Guru, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. You know,
Thank you for the invitation.
absolutely. So happy to hear you. And for some apes, it might be the first time they're able to sit in and hear you talk about GNANA and ApeSwap and the DAO. So I'm sure. Um, for the DAO, for ApeSwap DAO, and we saw it as the most recent proposal to increase the allocation from 0.1 to 1 banana per block for OLA. And so these are big changes, right? They can completely alter the direction of ApeSwap. And the power is all in the holders of GNANA. That's who decides it, right? And so if you can contrast that to, let's say it's a DEX ecosystem, but there's no governance model and there's no way for users to have control over these direction. Well, then you have the core team, or maybe it's not even a team, maybe it's just people making these decisions. And so obviously there's a lot of value in letting the holders steer this direction. And there's also a lot of value in crowdsourcing the intelligence in terms of, is this a good decision? And so what we saw with like the OLA increase, I don't think there was a single no vote. And so that's a resounding yes. And it validates what was thought of, you know, when the proposal was created and had support internally to be pushed out further for governance. Yeah, wow, okay, everybody's in line, everybody sees eye to eye, everybody has the same foot forward, right? And so it's empowering. It's very, very empowering to see these things become realized through a DAO. So yeah, it's great to witness it and watch. So our final section today is on GNANA strategies, because we talked about all the different elements of GNANA, and that's why we're here today. You've got burns on entrance, you've got reflection on send, you have multiple yield-bearing opportunities, and then finally, on top of it all, it serves as a governance token. And so it's got a lot going on. It's like, how do we approach it, right? Like that's what we're going into now. So first, we know we have to enter it. So let's map an approach, right? This idea that you can't create a plan or create an approach, or you have to make a singular entrance one time, right? Like these are bad, poor approaches that aren't deployed in like traditional markets, right? So don't do it in crypto markets, because it's a disservice to you. If you say, okay, yeah, GNANA seems cool, I'm going to do it, so I'm just going to go ahead and just buy it all right now and then see how it goes. Well, that's a disservice, because there's all sorts of different reasons to enter. There's all sorts of different time frames that you could enter. There's different price points that you could enter. So there's a lot of variables that would come into entering, because keep in mind, like what Guru said and what was in the slides, 30% of your entrance is gone. So anytime you take a 30% L, you better have some planning and some care and some thought go into that process, or you're setting yourself up for failure. If you're entering GNANA through fiat currencies, so you're going on to Coinbase and you get your $50 for the week or whatever, and that's what you're going to use, well, leverage dollar cost averaging, right? Like this is part of formulating a plan, formulating an entrance approach. So you can dollar cost average. And so you could say, okay, I want to buy 100 GNANA, but instead of buying 100 GNANA or minting 100 GNANA right now in this moment, I'm going to spread it across 4 months. And I'm going to, you know, like you could do these things. And so if you're dollar cost averaging and you're spreading these entrances out over time, then it doesn't sting as much, and you're following a plan that you created. And part of this approach is to figure out what you want to do with the GNANA once you have it minted. Do you want to leave it for pool staking? Do you want to leave it in wallet for passive yields? Are you going to use it as in IAOs? Do you plan on using it as the DAO activities? You know, have a plan. This is really what this entrance is all about, is don't just ape in at once, dive right in, and then not know what to do. So figure out what you want to do, when you want to do it, and do it over a longer period of time. So now, once you get it and you're entered, right, turn these yields into GNANA and you can make up some of your fees, right? So if you enter GNANA and it's a few weeks before an IAO, well, stake it and turn those yields, that whatever token you're earning, turn it into more GNANA so you can supplement that 30%. And then, mint GNANA and general market downtrends. If you don't have fixed dates or fixed timing for these entrances, well, when the market plunges and Bitcoin dies for the 90,000th time and all this other stuff, it presents a really good opportunity to enter. Because if the market is generally trending down, that psychological effect of, I'm going to miss out on potential gains, it's not there. It's not present. And so it's just easier to tolerate and easier to palate. I mean, look, I'm a diehard ApeSwap supporter, but yeah, it stings me. Minting GNANA, no one really likes to throw away 30% of their money, right? So we have to consider this. We have to consider this as our plan on entrant. And now for movement, look long term, right? Plan to enter a pool for weeks or months. You can go on to any pool available and you can see its projected end time. And so if you're going to enter a GNANA pool, right, plan to do it for weeks or months. There's so many different assets in cryptocurrency where you can move it around 1,000 times an hour and there's no penalty. There is a penalty with GNANA. So your best approach to managing this movement is to at least acknowledge it, right? If you at least acknowledge that this exists, then you can formulate an approach that works with it. So don't plan on shifting it around to a different pool every single day because you will get eaten up, right? And now if you are going into a pool, earn yields on projects you've researched and are comfortable with holding, right? There's 37 or 40 different GNANA pools. All of these projects have their own use cases, their own teams supporting them, their own communities, their own tokenomics, their own features, their own pros and cons. And so obviously by them being available as a GNANA pool, they passed our due diligence. They've worked with our team. We obviously have a working relationship with them. And so they're there. They're available for you. You can use our token. You can earn all these different assets. Well, find which one you like and look into it. Because then that way you're comfortable with holding your GNANA in the pool for weeks or months. Because if you see a high APR, you're like, oh, this is the winner. Well, that APR could drop. And what if all of a sudden in a week it drops and now it's the lowest APR because everybody aped into it? Well, now you got to exit. Well, you didn't want to exit after 4 or 5 days, did you? So look at what you're earning for your yields, because some of these yields are incredible. I mean, some of the different GNANA pools that apes have had access to, they have gone on and just ran, like Skill, Crypto Blades, Seek. There's all sorts of different GNANA pools where the yield being earned has gone on to 50, 100, 120x sometimes. And so they're out there, right? They're available. But if you formulate an approach on entrance and you understand what you're going to do after you enter, and you enter a pool and you earn a yield at which you're comfortable with, you're setting yourself up for success. And that's a very, very key thing to do in crypto, is to, all the cards are generally stacked against you. You're all alone. There's no central authority to go plead to for help or for questions or anything along those lines, right? So account for that, right? Put the onus on yourself and make sure that you are making smart decisions with your money. Account for the 2%, right? If you're going to commit to an IAO and you're going to send GNANA, don't be surprised if you get back, what's returned to you from the oversubscription, less a 4% transaction fee, because the value got 2% hit going in, and then it got 2% coming back out. So just be prepared, right? Don't be surprised. Understand the construct, understand the tokenomics, the gamification, and just account for it. And then finally, on the movement note, we've talked about it's been kind of a theme. IAOs generate significant movement. You can allocate it, right? You can allocate it in wallet to receive it, to make sure you get it. If you were looking at pools and the business development had a killer week in November or early December or something, and there's 4 or 5 really, really big pools that are going to be expiring, well, be waiting to catch it. Because if you aren't, someone else will, right? So in these periods of significant movement, have an allocation available to receive these reflections, because that's when you're going to get the most benefit. So the final note here on these GNANA strategies, when you're looking at pools, right, and you're looking at non-IAO periods, allocate your holdings to receive both reflections and pool rewards. So put 70% of your stack in pools and 30% in wallet, or 50-50. And then these periods of governance snapshots, these periods of high reflective activity, you're sort of indifferent to them because you already have it set up to get both reflections and yields. I mean, over a long-term period, the strategy will be quite beneficial for you. Is it going to help you on like a 2 or 3 day time frame? No. Is it going to help you on a 2 to 3 month time frame? Yeah, absolutely will. If you enter a pool with 70% of your stack and you leave 30% out, and that pool runs for 3 months, you'll be earning those yields for 3 months. You'll be catching reflections for 3 months. It's great. Great. It's best of both worlds. GNANA is weighed in pools and IAO to account for the 30% burn. Oh, and this is, I don't think many people consider this, right? So whatever banana token is trading at, that value in GNANA and an IAO is up 30%. Whatever value banana token's trading at, your GNANA in a pool is valued at 30% higher than that. And so within the ApeSwap ecosystem, we account for that 30% burn you do. So yeah, that money's gone forever, but we try to supplement it in the way that we value GNANA in the ecosystem. Finally, a short-term unguided approach to managing GNANA will end poorly. It's not like GNANA is so very different. And you can see in terms of the power that it has in the DAO, with the way that users can vote and steer direction of the project. Do we want a 10x our allocation for OLA? Yes. How do we know yes? Well, because 45,000 GNANA holders or 550,000 GNANA votes voted yes, right? And so treating this like a random, like highly speculative coin where you're just going to earn a few yields for a couple days and back out, it'll never work. It'll never work. It was, remember, we created this as an anti-whale mechanism, the value that it has within governance. This isn't meant to be like a speculative, in and out in a few days type thing. If you deploy a plan and you take a long-term approach and you understand the construct and you allocate to get both reflections and pool yields, you're set. You're set. You're set. You're set to be good for a long period of time. Do you have to take that approach? No. Can you just grab some GNANA to take part in an IAO? Yes, 100%, perfectly fine. But we wouldn't really need to put on a seminar to explain that, or we wouldn't need to put on a lab to explain all of that behind it. So while you have that ability and you could do that, that's not really what we're trying to explain here today. So thank you so much for today. We hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. If you'd like to visit apelabs.education, you can enroll in the styled crypto classes. We do have pre-registration for our next certification schedule. Would love to see you guys there. Now, I know that we had one question come in for the chats, but if anyone has any questions or if they just want to talk to Guru or Jules
Can
or
I
me,
share my own simple personal GNANA strategy before
absolutely.
we move into questions
Yes,
and answers?
please.
Okay, I have a very, very simple personal GNANA strategy that is related to IAOs. As probably many people here noticed, immediately after an AAO, a GNANA pool for that same IAO is deployed. So I basically of course I use a lot of GNANA in terms of governance, but my ape in GNANA, I basically just use it for AAOs in a sense that I ape into the AAO with my GNANA, and immediately after the AAO, I use that GNANA to get exposure to the AAO pool. So I maximize the value of my GNANA to acquire this newly launched token, which in general has more upside than an average token that has already been launched. Because in the IAO, you get accounted for the 30%, as Chip was mentioning, and also in the pool of the IAO, the initial allocation is valued at IAO price. So this allocation tends to be more valuable over time if the project performs. So my simple strategy is just go into the IAO and immediately after the IAO, go into the IAO pool and maximize exposure to the IAO. I mean, this is mostly geared towards people that are interested in participating in IAOs. On my case, I mostly use GNANA this way because you not only get better allocation than BNB, you can also get more exposure by putting the GNANA in the initial ape offering token pool. And that's a simple strategy.
Well, I hope people take your advice. It sounds like a really good approach, Guru.
Yeah, you don't have to think too much. It's just IAO after IAO, just follow the path of the IAO token. I mean, it not always works. I mean, we have IAOs of very different performances, as probably a few have seen. But in general, it's a good bet, at least for me.
Well, I did spend one IAO just going into all the pools that people left. It was great. All the pool APRs were just skyrocketing all over the place. It's like, yeah, why not? So, okay, we got questions coming in. So the first one was, what do you think about letting people only contribute banana instead of BNB, depending on how long they stacked banana beforehand? So like a age of holder kind of system. Is that technically feasible, Guru?
That's a very good question. As everything is working right now, it wouldn't be technical feasible, at least not by doing it entirely on chain. That approach would require some sort of whitelisting by checking how long this person has been a holder or how long has this person been staking in the banana pool. It would be feasible, but in reality, this kind of commitment is what we look in terms of GNANA. This is the big holders that are really committed to the protocol, that have been holding for a long time, are usually already on GNANA. So in a way, most of us feel like this need is being fulfilled by GNANA. It's a role that is already being presented in the form of contributing with GNANA.
Yeah, well said. Would agree
Exactly.
with that.
Just want to add on to that a little bit. Yeah, we actually spoke about that a few times now in our different Discord servers, and that's exactly what the conclusion was. Is that if anything, Pancake and the other exchanges that are implementing that model are really playing catch up with us. We've got the GNANA allocation to really exemplify and really show the best way to do that. I mean, it not only generates burn for us, and far more burn than Pancake's current model, but it also has been rewarding our best users since the start with the best allocations and overall the best reflect and ways to win through GNANA as a whole. So yeah, no, definitely something that we considered, but we've realized that we've essentially been ahead of the curve with this since the start. And personally, I'm very happy with the way it's going, and definitely would encourage more people to dig into the GNANA side of things when it comes to IAOs.
Yeah, well said, Jules. G Moser actually asks, how do we determine what a pool goes to either? And maybe as the biz dev master, maybe you could elaborate or shine some light on that.
For sure. No, for sure. That's a really good question. Honestly, we have a full-time DEX engineer on the squad. You may know him as ApeGeneer. And he does a lot of analysis across our platform. And essentially, every time we have a deal to present to the table, we share the partner details on the deal. We share the amount of potential tokens and liquidity that are coming over. And he helps us really identify the best place to go for a pool and potentially go for a farm as well. So it's really based on his data-driven analysis that we make those decisions. So I will say we typically try to put the juicier looking pools on the GNANA side of things so that we can really make sure we are rewarding our longtime holders and setting them up for opportunities like the skill pool, for example, which really blew up, or the CYT pool, for example, as well. That's actually a great call out as well, the CYT pool. So any IAO tokens that we get to do pools, so any IAOs will always be GNANA pools, just so that we can ensure that the same way GNANA holders can get into the IAO with a lower allocation, they also have a place to immediately park that GNANA that they got back from the oversubscription rate, and then immediately can start earning those tokens as well. So that's a little bit more information there on how that process is done.
Awesome. Thanks, Jules. Appreciate that elaboration. So Zainzu asks, any plans on incorporating GNANA with lending, borrowing? I wouldn't have any insight there. If Tastic was here, he would probably be in the best mood.
Yeah, for the time being, there aren't any plans in that regard. Mostly related to the reflect fee, as like with lending and borrowing, it would very quickly add up. For example, the lender would pay 2%, borrower would pay another 2% when borrowing. It would pay another 2% putting it back, and then the lender would pay another 2% when withdrawing its collateral. So it's a little bit tough properly incorporate GNANA into the lending protocol and making it work in a way that it's profitable for all the participants.
Well, if it looks, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to type it out or pop into VC. Otherwise, I think we're all good.
No, it wasn't a question. Thank you.
No other questions, Efe? Okay. Oh, Cobalt has one. How about creating a GNANA compounding strategy on OLA or a vault/vested GNANA?
Sounds complex. I would need to wrap my head around how that would work. GNANA compounding strategy on OLA. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know how to visualize that. If you want to expand on the idea.
I mean, it sounds cool, whatever it is.
Certainly sounds cool. Yeah, certainly
it sounds
sounds
cool.
Feel free to expand on the idea or DM me how that looks like.
What's up, Koa? What's your question?
Hey.
Speak up, Koa, if you want. Hey, Koa.
Yes, I'm here.
Hey.
I just have a question. I think there's others projects who have GNANA Vault. Do you plan to have one on your own?
That's a very good question. We've been working closely with some of the projects that have the GNANA vaults. A few of them we help them guide through the process of creating these vaults. Internally, we don't plan on doing the GNANA vaults because, at least not directly on ApeSwap, because you can imagine that a GNANA vault implies immediately selling the partner token into GNANA. So implementing this ourselves is something that will hurt our relationship with our partners because we are basically instantly dumping their token into Banana. So it's not something that we can do ourselves without kind of shooting ourselves in the foot with future partner relationships.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
So Goes asks if the overflow model will change to a tiered system because sometimes the IAO allocations.
Personally, I'm a big fan of the overflow model. I think it really helps gauge general user interest in the IAOs. It gets people excited to buy more and gets people more excited to participate as a whole. And I mean, honestly, of course, the allocations can be small sometimes, but I think that's part of the driving factor behind the subsequent price increase. and obviously, ensures that as many people as possible are able to participate. And again, we understand that it definitely can lead to whales kind of taking things over, and that's really one of the biggest reasons why GNANA was introduced, especially for IAOs, is to kind of counteract that and ensure that people are still able to get decent allocations without necessarily having to be whales. I don't know if Guru or anyone else has thoughts on that, but those are those are my 2 cents for sure.
Yeah, I generally agree. After seeing all this progress with GNANA, I'm in general comfortable with how it has been progressing and how allocation has been distributed. I don't disagree with the fact that if you have less amount of money, you are getting a lesser allocation. It's a reality, but I think that a lot of whales have been at least some sort of big whale activity has been detracted by GNANA. And even though there might exist better systems to ensure that the tokens are being safely distributed, we are not sure if tiered system is the answer. I mean, we're always exploring new ideas and have our heads open, though in the short term, we are not exploring anything in that regard.
Yeah, I would just piggyback on that and say that there is a lot of monitoring of what goes on different platforms in BSC and also on other ecosystems. And so, yeah, we definitely look at the different opportunities and the different types. We know that what we have works, and so generally, there has to be a pretty large incentive to move away. It does negatively affect kind of smaller holders and such, but we try to supplement that with the pools and like what you're saying. If you enter the pool right after the IAO comes out, that's potentially a better option with a small holding than maybe going right. But definitely a hot topic, and I think every IAO in the community side, there's it's impossible to kind of get a process that works for everybody and makes everybody special for the launching project. So yeah, but we definitely keep eyes on it and we see what goes on, and it's actually a very, very active discussion. So if something pops up and it's like, wow, like jaw dropping, then yeah, I could see it getting traction. So all right, well, thank you all again so much. It's been a blast. Toby asks, are you satisfied with the way the BNB side of IAOs is working right now? Jules, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Honestly, I think it allows a lot of new traffic to come over to ApeSwap. Obviously, it gives us an opportunity to still cater to whales who might not necessarily have been a part of our ecosystem or might be joining us for, just for IAOs and such. Again, obviously, we don't want to encourage whale activity necessarily, which is why we have that GNANA allocation. But of course, whales are very, very beneficial to crypto ecosystems as a whole. And obviously, we wouldn't see any type of meaningful movement without them. So definitely want to find a way to cater to everyone whenever possible. Typically, whales don't really want to burn a large portion of their funds or, hold long or large allocations for long periods of time. So really having that BNB allocation is great for the projects because obviously they need to raise funds in some way, shape, or form. We can't just burn everything, unfortunately. So, getting them a way to, I guess, quickly and easily ensure that they're oversubscribing, as well as continuing to cater to whales in some way, shape, or form, I think is very beneficial and valuable to the ecosystem as a whole. So for the time being, personally, I'm very, very happy with the BNB side of things.
Yeah, great answer. I'm always happy when I see the number and it's like there's so much interest in ApeSwap and the projects that are launching. And so it makes me really, really encouraged as I remember the early days watching it tick up, right? and so it's really cool to see how quickly everybody piles in. Lots of demand for it. Really encouraging for us.
Right. No, it's so exciting every time to watch that oversubscription rate skyrocket, and then especially now, that we've changed it from being that hour long to the longer version. We kind of all gather around and watch that initial raise and see how long it takes to reach the 100% mark, and then we come back, towards the end, obviously, and just watch all the last people aping in and really pumping up that over allocation or oversubscription number. And it's just awesome to see. It really is. It's so exciting.
All right, guys. Well, let's wrap it up there. So thank you all so much for attending. Thank you to Guru and Jules for presenting. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And
Thanks for the invitation. Talk to you next time, and feel free to ask me in any other time. It was a pleasure.
Same here. Thank you so much, guys. It was a pleasure speaking and a pleasure being able to help out and provide some knowledge.
so everyone take care. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure. Bye bye.
Thanks, everybody.